You're listening to WCAT Radio, your home for authentic Catholic programming.
Welcome. My name is Frank Ambrosio, and I'm the director of the My Dante project at Georgetown University. Today it's my great pleasure to welcome you to a reading of the second canticle of Dante's Divina Commedia, voiced by Daniel Fitzpatrick. Danny will be reading his own translation of the poem, recently completed to honor the 700th anniversary of the great poet's death in the year 1321. Poetry is meant to be spoken and heard. Listen now as Dan Fitzpatrick reads the Purgatorio, the great story of the rebirth of human hope.
Hello and welcome back to the Dante in a Year podcast. My name is Danny Fitzpatrick. Today we continue our journey with Dante's Purgatorio, Canto 19. In the hour when the day's heat can no more warm the chill of the moon, overcome by Earth and now and then by Saturn, when the geomancers see their Fortuna Major in the Orient before the dawn, surging along the way that won't stay dark for long, there came into my dream a babbling woman, her eyes crossed and her feet contorted, with mutilated hands and sickly white in color. I stared at her, and as the sun comforts chilled limbs that the night has numbed, so my stare escorted her tongue, and in a moment straightened her altogether, and likewise lent color to her smeared visage as love would wish. And once her speech was thus loosed, she began to sing so that I had to tear my mind from her with pain. I am, she chanted, I am the sweet siren who sways mariners in the midst of the sea. So sweetly do I please them with my song. I turned Ulysses from his ceaseless way to my voice, and those who are used to me can hardly depart, so fully do I please them. Her mouth had not yet closed again, when a lady saintly and swift appeared alongside me to put her to confusion. "O Virgil, Virgil, what is this?" she spoke fiercely, and he came with eyes fixed solely on that honored one. He seized the other, and bared her front by rending her robes, and he showed me her belly. That woke me with the stench that issued forth. I moved my eyes, and the good master, "At least 3 times I've sent you my voice. Rise and come, let's find the aperture by which you'll enter." I raised myself, and all the circles of the sacred mount were full already of the high day, and we went with the sun new upon our backs. Following him, I bore my brow as one who bears a burden of thought that makes of himself a half-arch of a bridge, when I heard, "Come, here is the crossing," spoken in as soft and kind a way as is not heard in these mortal borders. With spread wings that seemed a swan's, the one that had so spoken guided us up between 2 faces of enduring stone. He moved his plumes then, and fanned us, affirming, "Qui lugent," to be blessed, for their souls shall have comfort. "What is it that you gaze solely at the ground?" my guide began to say to me, as together we mounted a bit above the angel. And I make my way with soul suspicious of this strange vision that bends me to itself, so that I cannot keep it from my thoughts. "You saw," he said, "that ancient witch who alone is wept above us now. You saw how a man is freed of her. But enough, and beat the earth with your heels. Turn your eyes again to the lure that's whirled on the eternal King's great wheels. As the falcon which first gazes at its feet, then turns itself to the cry and stretches in desire of the food that draws it there, so was I made, and so, as much as the rock cracked to give way to one who would ascend, I went up to where the circling takes its way. When I was discharged into the 5th circle, I saw people upon it who wept, lying with all their faces down upon the earth. "Adhaisit pavimento anima mea," I heard them say with such deep sighs that the sense could only be discerned with difficulty. O elect of God, whose sufferings justice and hope make more endurable, point us toward the upward way. If you come secure from being cast down, and you wish to find the swiftest way, let your right be always to the outside. So prayed the poet, and thus was the response to us from a bit farther on, so that I noticed the other, though hidden, in his speech, and I turned my eyes to the eyes of my Lord, at which with a happy signal he assented to that my look of desire had asked. Then, as I could act according to my sense, I drew myself above that creature whose words first made me take note of him, saying, Spirit in whom tears make mature that without which you couldn't turn back to God, leave your greater care for a bit for me. Tell me who you are, why you have turned your back to the sky, and whether you wish that I should beg anything for you from where I departed while living. And he to me, Why heaven has us turn our backs to itself you will know, but first, scias quod ego fui successor Petri. Between Sestri and Chiaveri there flows a beautiful stream, and of its name the tidal of my blood makes its head. 1 month and a bit more I tested how the grand mantle presses on him who guards it from the mud, so that every other burden seems a feather. My conversion, was late, but once I was made the Roman shepherd, I discovered the lying way of men's lives. I saw my heart was not quiet there, nor could I have risen higher in that life, and it was this that kindled love within me. Up to that point I was a miserable soul and parted from God, made all of avarice. Now, as you see, I am punished here. That which avarice does is here declaimed in purgation of the inverted souls, and the mountain has no harsher pain. Just as our eyes would not adhere to that above, fixed on earthly things, so justice here has bound them to the earth. As avarice spent our love for every good, so that its operation was lost, so justice here constricts us, our feet lashed and our hands bound, and as long as it please the just Lord, so long shall we stay stretched and immobile. I had bent my knee and wished to speak, but as I began he noticed, solely by listening, my reverent gesture, and he said, What causes you to bend down there? And I to him, Because of your dignity my conscience bit me as I stood. Straighten your legs, lift yourself, brother, he responded. Err not, I am a servant along with you, and with these others of one power. If you've ever attended to that holy gospel verse that says, Neque nubent, you ought well see why I thus reason. Now take your way. I would not wish to hold you longer, for your stay delays these tears with which I water that you've mentioned. I have a niece there, named Alighieri, good herself, provided that our house has not made her evil by example, and she alone remains to me below. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Dante and Alighieri podcast. See you next time for Dante's Purgatorio, Canto 20.
Hello, God's beloved. I'm Annabelle Mosley, author, professor of theology, and host of Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. I invite you to listen in and find inspiration along this sacred journey we're traveling together to make our lives a masterpiece and, with God's grace, become saints. Join me, Annabelle Mosley, for Then Sings My Soul and Destination Sainthood on WCAT Radio. God bless you. Remember, you're never alone. God is always with you.
Thank you for listening to a production of WCAT Radio. Please join us in our mission of evangelization. And don't forget, love lifts up when knowledge takes flight.